I'm Larry Ray, President and CEO of American Manganese Inc., listed on the TSX Venture, ticker symbol AMY, A-M-Y, with proprietary patents in the U.S., China, and South Africa. Our focus is on recycling lithium-ion batteries for electric vehicles. China recently legislated the responsibility for recycling onto their electric vehicle manufacturers and importers. For more information, please visit AmericanManganeseInc.com or phone me, Larry Ray, at 778-574-4444.
Welcome to the Goddard Report. Comments made on the Goddard Report and TalkDigitalNetwork.com are an expression of opinion only. Here is Jim Goddard.
My guest is Harvey Oberfeld, a retired but still issue-engaged television reporter. Check out his website, harveyoberfeld.ca, and his blog, Keeping It Real. Harvey, you're concerned about BC's hidden taxes. I know we keep seeing these government ads on television telling us how lucky we are to live in BC because we have the best economy, the best budget. Is that really true?
Well, I guess everything is relative, but I know there's an election coming up in the not-too-distant future, and of course we're going to see all these ads again, how low our taxes are, the lowest in North America, the lowest in Canada, whatever, and so, I guess, our taxes are not that unreasonable considering some of the services we get, I guess, compared to other jurisdictions like over in Europe, where I have friends living over there and, like in Norway or something, and it's way over 50-something%, but, the government makes a big deal of saying that the taxes here, our income taxes, our taxes are very, very low. And, it strikes me as the old story years and years ago. I once went to New York City when the dollar was sort of around par. And I was in Times Square and they had a camera in the window. I think it was $149.99. And I knew that camera in Canada was about 200 or so. So I went in and I looked at it, I'm going to buy this. This is a good deal. I was ready for a camera. And the guy said, yes, but it's $149.99, but the case is $83.99 extra. I said, I don't need the case. I never use the case anyway. Yeah? Oh no, it doesn't. It's in a box. It's not sold without the case. So the real price was over $200 and something, and it was a scam. I mean, I don't know if they still do that in Times Square, but that was a scam at the time. That the price advertised in the window, good luck trying to get it when you walked in the store. And I think BC is a little bit like that. They say, we have the lowest income taxes, compared to the rest of the country at least, and probably most of the United States when you take a look at your total tax bill. But I'm not finding that anymore. I find, we just heard the other day ICBC applied for another increase. And they want to raise it, what is it? I think they're looking for almost 5%, 4.9%. Well, they just got 5.5% last year, and they say, well, it's because of, accidents and injuries and claims. But don't forget the BC government pulls out of ICBC what they call a dividend. Sounds like something Vito Corleone might have had, a dividend on your business, Well, that's what BC government pulls out of ICBC. Nothing to do with cars or anything like that. It's just, it's their cut of the action. Well, that's a tax. I mean, that is a tax that we are paying. And so that's kind of led me into take a look at a few things. And it's not just ICBC. Hydro said, they announced that a couple of years ago they wanted to have a 5-year plan to increase it by, I think it was about 28 or 29% over the 5 years, and it's happening. What about, look at gasoline taxes in the Lower Mainland. I was actually floored when I looked it up. When the price of 1 liter of gasoline in the Vancouver area, there's 32.17 cents per liter of taxes added in. And that includes a motor vehicle tax, a motor fuel tax. There's also something called the TransLink tax we know about, 6.75%, Transportation Financing Authority tax, a carbon tax. So it all adds up to 32 cents a liter for every liter of gasoline you buy. So the average taxpayer is not getting the low taxes that the BC government talks about. It's a bit of a scam, where they tell you it's low taxes. Don't forget our MSP payments. We're the only province now that has MSP payments separate from income tax, where it's included there and it's graduated based on income. So all in all, we aren't taxed as low as the government wants you to believe.
And also with these fees, they don't take into account your ability to pay.
Well, some of them, I guess if you drive a lot, you'll pay more. I guess if you leave all the lights on in your house, you'll pay more. Although, corporations and many corporations do get a break on hydro rates, big resource companies. Same thing with water rates. There are breaks given to corporations, and of course the government also boasts that we have some of the lowest corporate taxes in North America. So, all things considered, the one where you do get hit based on income unfairly, I believe, is the MSP. There's something wrong when somebody earning, let's say, half of what I would earn pays the same thing for MSP as I would. I just don't think that's fair. I realize if it were graduated, I might end up paying more for MSP. But I just think it's unfair that somebody who earns so much less pays almost. There is a limit. I think if you earn below 20,000 or something, you're exempt, and then it's graduated up to about 30,000. But most people working a fairly decent job these days will be making more than 30,000 a year. But a person earning around that 30,000, they pay the same MSP rate as a multimillionaire, living in Shaughnessy and spending the weekends at his Whistler recreation property or out on a yacht. And there's just something wrong with that. But the BC Liberals, that's their one Achilles heel. But the big thing is, the Fraser Institute. Fraser Institute did a study, and they said that the average Canadian is paying $16,000 more in taxes since 1961. And, the average breakdown was interesting. Alberta, 44%. When you add in all these extra charges and fees, 44.5% of their income goes to taxes. Quebec, 51%. And, and we've always sort of snooted at Quebec. We know how much waste and corruption and how high their taxes are and, and all that kind of thing. Well, BC is 49.1. BC is about, next to Quebec, is about the highest in Canada when you add everything in. So how do you have 49.1% total tax payout? And that's calculated by the Fraser Institute. I'm not talking about some left-wing, study group that's out to get the Liberals. This is the Fraser Institute saying our total tax bill is 49.1%. And it's certainly not the lowest. When they say we have low taxes, the figures don't seem to hold that up.
Also, I look at ultra-high fees for renewing your driver's license, probate fees to process your will. Now, it costs the government the same if somebody leaves $1,000 to a relative or $1 billion, but they charge a rate on it as well.
Yeah, well, there's all kinds of fees like that. Property transfer fees. You know how much money the government takes in from property transfer fees? And those who support those things say, well, look, this is a fee for service. This service has to be provided, and you have to pay for it somehow. But the government has increased all kinds of fees, I think, just about all across the board. And I'm not talking about, fees to keep up with increasing costs related to inflation. We're not talking about the inflationary increases. We're talking about consistent increases well beyond the level of inflation. And that's just that we're talking the BC government level. Don't forget the municipalities. In Vancouver, they've been increasing taxes also well above what seems to be inflation, and certainly below anything I see on my pension, So the taxpayers are being hit by this, and then they wonder, well, why aren't people spending? Well, we're not spending because the government's taking so much of it.
Well, it seems to me, too, that no one's taken basic economics and learned about the Laffer curve where there's a formula where a government makes more money with a taxation rate of around 22% than it does at a rate at 40% or more?
Well, the theory is that if you put the money in the hands of the people will sell it. But there's a problem with that, and it's something I actually blogged about when I did a blog a couple of weeks ago on globalization. The theory is that when companies and corporations are doing well, the employees do well, the employees have disposable income, and they go out and dispose of it. Unfortunately, under globalization, many corporations, many of us who invest have done very, very well. I'm having a fairly comfortable retirement because my investments have done, much better than I ever expected. So we're doing okay. The people that have money that invest, the people at the top. But what I've noticed is that the people at the top are taking so much more of it than they used to, and so much more share. The executives, the shareholders, the people at the top are taking a huge percentage of it. And I know from working class friends of mine who go out and have jobs that they weren't fortunate to get a job like I had. They're lucky if they get 1 or 2% or 3% is a big one, every couple of years. And they can't, so they're not getting salary increases. A lot of them can't even get full-time hours with benefits. So the trickle down that feeds the economy is not happening because too much of it is being kept by the people at the top. And they're living a very good life. A lot of them aren't spending it. They're just putting it away, and I guess the grandkids might get it eventually. But the trickle down in the economy in far too many instances is not happening. And so the people that go out and spend, the consumers, the people that, us older people, most of us, we have all the toys and gadgets and things we're going to need, enough furniture and all that. We might replace a washing machine every so often, and that's it. We're done for the year. But most of the people that spend money are in the young families group, the people furnishing new homes, the young people who go out and buy all the latest gadgets. They buy the clothing that, you know what I mean? And those of us at the top, those of us who are older, we've done, we don't spend money like that. But we're the ones with amassing greater and greater fortunes, while the people down below, a lot of them, are not seeing the results of our increasing economy or are benefiting from our economy. So there is a problem. And then the government steps in and keeps raising the taxes to the point that it is hurting working families. It is hurting middle-class families. So they're getting it from both ends. They're getting it from the top. They're not getting it from the top, actually. And then they're getting it from the bottom when the government's taking away more and more of what they do have.
Well, BC used to have very reasonable camping fees. They've now gone sky high, and what's more, they're getting skimmed by multinational companies that'll sell them back to you at 10 times the price.
Well, I thought they did away with park fees. I don't, that's not something I take care of, but take part in. But I thought they did away with park fees or provincial park fees. I could be wrong, but I certainly see it when I look at. Like I say, you look at hydro rates, you look at ICBC, you look at all the, the gasoline taxes are outrageous. When I'm in Florida last year, when the price was about, I guess, just a little lower than it is now, I paid $2.73 a gallon, and and that was normal. That wasn't a one-day sale price. And here, in Vancouver, what is it now? About $1.26 a liter, and this is when the price of oil is down. It's come back a little bit, but not that much, and we're paying $1.26 a liter. And then you ask, the oil companies, they'll tell you, it's not really us so much as it is the taxes. So, we haven't even talked about sin taxes yet, about alcohol or booze or things like that. So all in all, the government, I think, is just taking too much from the middle class and the working class, and these are the people that go out and spend and buy things.
We'll have more with Harvey Oberfeld right after the break.
Gem International is a new diamond explorer in the richest diamond-producing country in Africa, located next to the fourth largest producing diamond mine in the world. International Spotlight is on an 1109-carat diamond recently discovered in Africa by a fellow Canadian junior. with a proven operator and finance team. GEM International trades on the TSX Venture Exchange. Symbol GI. Visit us at gemdiamondmining.com.
In Goddard we trust.
Welcome back. We're speaking with Harvey Oberfeld. Harvey, one thing I found very upsetting is that in the first time in 9 years, people on disability pensions in BC got a raise, $77 a month, and then the government announced it was taking away their transit subsidy.
Well, that's exactly the point I'm making, that, there are people who are still struggling so much just to get by, and there are people say, well, the government says, well, they need the money. We have a growing deficit, we have a growing debt. But the fact of the matter is, corporations, I don't believe, pay their fair share. And I know a lot of our listeners won't like to hear that, but I truly believe when you look at the proportion of taxation paid, middle class and working class people, and even people with good professional jobs, when the total tax picture is developed, they pay a very high percentage of the provincial government income. The graduated income taxes, those in the higher tax brackets get, I don't believe they pay their fair share. I think there's some room for higher taxation there. Corporate taxes, I know the government raised them slightly, but at one point they were 15%. Well, in the United States they're 35%. Now that's far too high. That of course we know has hurt the American economy. But there's got to be a better gap between 15, 16, 17% and 35%. The resource royalties that the companies pay here, the break they get on power, there's lots of breaks that corporations get. There's lots of write-offs that they get that the ordinary person, let's be honest, we don't get. We don't get to write off things. We can't even write off our own mortgages like they do in the States. So maybe that would be something that would help the average working person. You talk about we put a 15% tax on real estate of foreign buyers. Okay, that certainly seems to have had an effect on the market, but that doesn't help the person who's still going out there and buying a house, a very plain house in Vancouver for $1.2 million. Well, I think mortgage deductibility, would help, and that would certainly help people with young families. And there's all kinds of breaks they can get them, but I don't think anybody with a straight face could say that the rich and the corporations pay a fair share in the big corporations, especially pay a fair share in BC taxes, especially after you look at all the write-offs they get and all kinds of things, subsidies and grants and all this kind of thing.
Well, of course, if you're a big multinational, you just try to find a country with a very low tax rate. Right now, there's been a ruling by the European Union that Apple owes $13 billion in taxes. Their head office is in Ireland, and the Irish government is saying if we tax them at that rate, we'll lose the 140,000 high-tech jobs that we have now. We're not going to ask for that tax.
Well, you can see. I was in Cork and I was in Dublin a couple of years ago. Year and a half ago, and you can see the foreign companies that are located there and doing quite well thanks to their generous tax system and of course their accessibility to the EU. It's been very good for them, but these corporations didn't start up there. They didn't, it's a tax haven. So there, you've got to find a fine line in between the two. You've got to first of all make it difficult for them to do what they're doing by, even countries like Ireland, the EU is trying to stop them from doing what they're doing. But here, there are certain companies that are based here, that make their money here, that do their businesses here, and you don't want to discourage them. And then I'm not talking about overtaxation, but they do have to pay their fair share. And I'm not even talking about small business. Small businesses pay a very high percentage. The city hits them with so many extra costs, and to get things done in the city of Vancouver. The cost of development, the cost of opening up a store, the cost of retail licensing, what they demand of them. small businesses have a great struggle before they even take a dollar in from a customer. They're in the hole. It's not them. I think, though, that in a big province like BC, our resource industries, our major industries, they should, especially based on profits, they should be paying more to help the general benefit of the society instead of, as the Liberals, I believe, have done, downloaded so much more of the burden onto middle-class families and young families.
Well, of course, Vancouver, with the expensive cost of housing, we're seeing workers turn down jobs because they can't afford to live here.
Well, I just had lunch with somebody yesterday who's gone to live up in Prince George, has been there for a year and a half, was in visiting, and loves it there because it's manageable, it's affordable, and if you can get out every so often, you can get down to the city for a visit or, fly off to Mexico or whatever, but, you can buy a home without having to figure, well, I'm going to pay for this for the next 45 to 50 years, and then, so people want to live in Vancouver. You do have to pay a premium, but and I believe in the market. I mean, the market is the way things are going. I've done very well under the market conditions, but at some point, the government has to, if you're going to have such high prices, the government has to stop taking it out of the people's pocket before they try to even buy a house. They have to stop taking so much out of the middle class and the young working families.
Harvey, thank you so much for chatting with us.
You're welcome.
My guest has been Harvey Oberfeld. Check out his website, harveyoberfeld.ca, and his blog, Keeping It Real. You're listening to The Goddard Report on TalkDigitalNetwork.com. Find us on Twitter at TalkDigitalNet. Check out our popular YouTube channel, Talk Digital Network. Questions for the show can be emailed to info@howstreet.com. I'm Jim Goddard. Thanks for listening.
Comments made on The Goddard Report and TalkDigitalNetwork.com are an expression of opinion only. The Goddard Report is available online and mobile at TalkDigitalNetwork.com. The Goddard Report is a production of How Street Media Incorporated.